Hey everyone, welcome to the Thriving Marriage High Thrive Live on this wonderful January Thursday. I'm here with Mark Johnston, our head marriage coach, and I'm Heather Choate, the mindset coach here at High Thrive Coaching. So if you can see and hear us okay, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments for us, we always love to hear from you. So go ahead and leave those in the chat. We can see them as we go live here. So today we want to talk about how to build a better marriage this year. And I think this is a really good topic. It's a little broad. And so we're going to give a little bit of a high level overview to start. And then we can go in and talk about some of your specific questions or your challenges that you might be facing this year. So Mark, one of the things that we teach people as this idea of building, right? We're talking about even a metaphor of building a house, right? You want it to have this really strong foundation. And there's kind of four key areas that we look at when we're talking about pillars that build this strong foundation in marriage. So I'm going to touch on those real quick. And Mark, feel free to jump in with whatever. Sure. And again, I see we have some people watching live. So go ahead and say hi, let us know you're here, and any comments or questions you might have. So one of the very first pillars is this idea of connection. Why is connection one of the most important things to have right off the bat? So what we're going to do, just as the high level overview, we're going to go through these four different pillars that build a strong marriage. And as you're watching, I want you to kind of assess your own marriage and where you're at in each area. Because if one area is a little weak, then that's going to make the whole building lopsided or kind of topple, right? So the first one is this idea of connection. Mark, why do you feel like connection is one of the most important things to have for a strong, thriving marriage to build that strong foundation?
Well, connection is absolutely important in any relationship really, but any good relationship, but especially in a marriage. I mean, when we really look at it, connection is a basic human need that people have. If you look, what happens when people become disconnected, they tend to have more mental health problems. They tend to be more sick. They tend to be less happy. And in a marriage, I mean, that's kind of the whole point of having this loving relationship, is to be able to connect and be with someone. And so this is absolutely a central pillar to being able to have a happy relationship, is the ability to connect with your spouse.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then from there, we want to build that connection into deeper levels of intimacy, right? Connection grows from this friendship, this ability to relate to each other, into more of intimacy that takes the relationship into that, I'll call it the sacred nature of a marriage, where you really have that intimacy on all levels, right? We're talking about emotional, physical, spiritual, all of those different levels.
It won't do well to just have this surface level connection. I can go to anyone and talk about the weather or talk about business. And what you said is absolutely right, Heather. It's this idea of intimacy, the being more vulnerable, being more open with your partner. That's what I would say just about everyone that we talk to is what they're looking for, is they're looking for those deeper connections, and not just someone that, exists in the same house and they occasionally do some things together.
Right. Yeah. It's taking it from roommates or just coexisting to that deep, soul level connection, right? That's what makes marriage very beautiful.
Absolutely.
All right. And our third pillar is communication. And we understand that everything that needs to be addressed in a marriage has to happen through this channel of communicating. We know that communicating is more than just talking. So to have a really strong, thriving marriage, Mark, what do you feel like is the core of good communication? How do we know if we're on the right track with having that pillar be really strong for our marriage?
Well, let's start off with what bad communication is, because, by far, I think a lot of what the problem is with a lot of the clients that we work with is, there's some poor communication going on, or just misinterpretation of what's going on. When problems start to set in, either spouse, whether they're wanting to be in the relationship or not, when the problems set in, these misinterpretations and miscommunications start to happen, and it just tends to snowball. So you might view your husband or your wife's actions as a little bit more negative than they really meant it to be, and then that inclines you to look at other actions in a similar light, and it just tends to get worse and worse. And so as far as good communication goes, we can go back to the connection as far as being more open, being deeper, being more vulnerable with your partner. Frequently, when I'm telling my clients on how to communicate, I usually recommend what I call radical honesty, where any sort of information that might be pertinent to your spouse, might be in any way important or in any way interesting to them, is something that you should share. So, for instance, if you had a bad day at work, you should share that. If you had a good day at work, you should share how that felt. You should be sharing and communicating things about not just business, but your emotions and the things that frustrate you and the things that really make you happy. This radical amount of honesty and openness is really what a marriage needs to go deeper, to be healthy, to really connect.
Absolutely. Yeah, and this whole idea of communication we talked a lot about. Any of these 4 pillars we can go super, super deep on. Again, this is just kind of that surface level of what the 4 pillars are to have a happy, thriving marriage. But yeah, we see that when communication deteriorates based on our different backgrounds, different habits that we have, what was modeled to us about communication can really cause some significant challenges in even the best relationship, right? So having that pillar really strong is important. And the best thing to know is that those are skills that can be learned. They aren't just innately in all of us, but we can absolutely learn and master them. So that brings us to our 4th pillar. So if we imagine our house with our foundation, we've got connection, we've got intimacy, we've got communication, and the last one is trust. And we've been hearing a lot about trust lately, because when trust shatters in a relationship, it's like a huge crack going through that foundation, right? But to have that kind of level of trust with your partner, with your spouse, to know that they've got your back, you've got their back, they're going to honor what they say, they're going to honor their vows to you, you're going to honor your vows to them. That really takes the relationship to that ideal level, wouldn't you say, Mark?
Absolutely. And what I find interesting about these pillars is they're all very, very much connected. So trust is very closely connected, I think, to intimacy, in that trust is really the idea that you can feel safe, secure, open with your partner. And if you think about it, I mean, that's really what intimacy is the ability to be open and deep and vulnerable with your partner. The thing is, a lot of what we start seeing, and when people come our way, is they'll talk about trust disappearing, trust being gone, and how to get this trust back. And I get it. It's a really complicated issue, really difficult thing to deal with. And the reason why so many people bring it up is because, once again, it's one of these pillars. You have to have the ability to feel safe and secure, like you can actually have some sort of predictability within the relationship, and you need trust to do that. So absolutely a very important part of any relationship.
Absolutely. I really like Amy's comment here. She says, I believe commitment is a pillar of the foundation. If you don't have commitment to working things out and staying together, the relationship can be very one-sided. Absolutely. I kind of lump commitment in with trust. It's knowing that you're going to keep your and honor your vows. So it's just a matter of semantics there.
Sure. Yeah. There's lots of different ways to parse this, to describe it. We could talk about what's needed, basic emotional needs within a relationship, and we could split that up. We could talk about these pillars of lots of theories, lots of different ways of describing very similar concepts.
Absolutely. And then just to add here, she says you have to have that commitment on both sides and have it known so you can feel safe and secure. That's absolutely true. But when we start to work with couples specifically where one spouse checked out of the relationship, That's something we have to work toward. It's not something that we can demand right off the bat. So we'll go into that deeper at another time, but I really appreciate you sharing that. Thank you very much, Amy. So we wanted to take you and your marriage wherever you are, because everyone watching is going to be in a very different place. We have some people that are committed and in a relatively good, stable relationship, and they're looking to take it to the next level this year. We also have people on the very end of the spectrum that their spouse is checked out, they're heading toward divorce, and their marriage is really, on the fringes. So we want this to be a benefit to everyone. So I want you to really apply this to you and think about what of those 4 areas do you feel like would really improve your marriage this year? Where are you strong at? Maybe you have good communication, but the passion's lacking a little bit, right? Or maybe you have great passion, but you can't communicate well, So just really assess yourself. Even take a deep breath. I like to do. Wherever you are, you might be out multitasking or watching us while you're doing other things, but just take a minute for yourself. Take a minute for your marriage. It is so vitally important. And I know you wouldn't be here watching us and joining us if it weren't to you. So give yourself the gift of just a beat. Really just allow yourself to sink into this and to feel this. What would really make my marriage better this year? How could I build a stronger foundation and build a better marriage this year? So just take a minute, just a little check-in, because I don't think we give ourselves the gift of time enough and space enough to do that. And then I would like you to go I'm going to grab the link to this real quick. We created a New Year's marriage goal sheet, and I actually want you to go grab this right now. So I'm going to put the link here. If you haven't grabbed it already, because this is a really powerful free tool that you can use. And let's see, it's showing there. Let's see, how do we put it in the comments?
I think it ends up in the comments when you eat.
End up in the comments? Okay.
If not, we'll put it there later.
I'll put it there later. But if you can, go ahead and grab this, this goal sheet right here. And if you have to come back to it later, if you're driving or something, then obviously be safe. But this is a really great guide to help us get clear on what we want and why. I think I mentioned this last week, but sometimes we have this feeling inside that we know things aren't what we want them to be, but we don't really know why. And we don't even really know what the outcome is that we're wanting. So this really helps guide us on how to go a little bit deeper and think about these things a little bit clearer. So I'm just going to go through 1 or 2 of these to help illustrate the power of this, to get really clear on your intention for this year, to really take one of those pillars, the one that you're wanting to work on the most, and implement it this year so your marriage truly can become better and stronger. So after you go to that link, you'll have to put in your email. It's totally free. And then you'll go to this goal sheet here. So number 1 goal, I want you to just think about, brainstorm, allow your mind to just imagine and feel free. You're in a safe place of what you would really love to see happen in your marriage this year. What would really make your heart sing? What would make you just so happy and feel like, wow, this is the best year of our marriage ever? So the first question is, what's the most important thing I can do this year to make a serious impact in our marriage? Now, I want you to be very aware of the language in here. What is the most important thing I can do this year to make a serious impact on our marriage? Okay, Mark, why do you think I emphasize the word what I can do this year?
Well, I oftentimes when, we're looking through, when we're talking about our marriage, I frequently see all the things that, people comment on all the things that their spouse is doing wrong, that their spouse could change. Well, if he would only, not be so angry, if she would only, pay attention to the kids a little bit more, if she wouldn't spend so much money. And it's all these things that other people need to do. But the thing is, you don't really have a lot of control over other people, but you have a lot of control over what you do and how you bring yourself to the marriage. And that can have a huge effect if you make some changes.
Absolutely. So what we don't want to do on the do not do side is set a goal or intention that you can't control, right? In this marriage, we have 2 people, and there's only 50% of it that you can possibly control. You can try to control or manipulate your partner, but that's not going to work out well. So we want to set an intention and set a goal of something that you personally can do to know that you're making progress, and it will positively affect your relationship as you work on it and give it the time it needs to develop. So as you're thinking about that most important thing you can do to have a serious impact on your marriage, how would it feel to have this? And I want you to really take some time and like let that sink in. How would that feel to have that? So if I felt like, you know, if my husband came home from work and he was a little bit stressed, but I was there and my intention was to show him some understanding and to ask him and connect with him on what he's going through, give him that gift of some empathy and some compassion. What would that feel like to me? Wow. I would feel so great that I was able to connect with him, and I would feel like I understand him better. I feel like that I would feel in a more calm internal place because I'm not so worried about myself. I'm more concerned about my partner and showing up and giving him the love and support that he needs. And that in turn would make me feel really good. So this is an illustration here. So apply it to whatever you're doing. But how would it feel to have that? What would that really feel like to you? What would it look like? You know, envision it like it's a scene in a movie. You know, you're sitting on the couch and that's what it looks like. You know, he feels relief. You see the sigh of relief in him. You see the loving expression on your own face. You can, you know, like you can visualize what it actually looks like. How would my spouse respond? Again, you're visualizing, if I behaved in this way, if I brought this intention to my marriage, this is the positive impact that it would probably have on them, right? Taking it a little bit further. Why is this goal so important to me? And that's a really important one. It's so important to know why we're doing things, right, Mark? In order for change to really last, we have to understand that why. So can you help people understand what that looks like? Like, we know what we want, but why is it so important to know why we want it?
Well, the why there is really what's going to motivate you. For instance, you could say, okay, I want a happier marriage, which, you know, in and of itself is a good goal, not very specific, but it's not really something that, you know, when you look at it at the surface level, is really terribly motivating. Now, if you get really deep into that and ask yourself, okay, why do I want a happy marriage? Is it because, okay, you have better connection, you feel better about yourself, you are able to present yourself better at work, you want a happier marriage because that's a goal that you've had for a long time, and when you have that connection, when you have that intimacy, it just feels good inside. That what you're looking for ultimately is, as you keep asking yourself this question, why do I want this goal? You need to connect to some sort of feeling. And it's generally, in my experience, it's those feelings, as we connect to those, that really start to drive us a little bit in completing our goals. So having that why is going to help you follow through with getting what you want.
Absolutely. Thanks for going a little deeper in that. So it's hard to change, right? It's easier to slip back into what we've known and what we've done, and to our habits and our habitual responses. And so you really need to connect with why this is so important to you, to push you through that discomfort of changing and adopting a new pattern, a new habit in your relationship and in your own life. And then here's the last question here. What do I need to learn, and who can I learn it from? So this is getting a little bit more into the action tactical side, but if I really didn't know how to have empathy for my husband in this situation, it just didn't come naturally to me. I've never really felt that in myself. I just don't really know how to get past certain things to feel that for him. Then what would I need to learn? I would need to learn, how do I have that empathy? How do I set aside my own emotional drives right now to be there present for him? There's some specific skills there that I might be lacking. And so identifying what it is that you need to learn. If it's communication, I want to learn how we can talk about disagreements without it blowing up into a huge fight. I don't know how to do that. We don't have that skill. that is something that we need to then go and learn. So where can we learn that? Who can we learn that from?
Now,
so that's taking it into act. Yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who look at this sort of situations like this and they're saying, okay, I need to learn better communication, or I need to learn better empathy. And, you know, the first step that I see a lot of people take is they go to self-help books, or they go online and look up articles. And that's all well and good. You know, I read a fair amount of those books myself, but the problem that I see going there is if you really want some change, just going to the books isn't really going to do it for most people, especially when you're talking about some of these more interpersonal skills, the communication and the empathy. It really needs a certain amount of feedback. Now, if you have an absolutely great relationship with your spouse and they're able to experiment with you and give you some feedback, then go for that. I mean, all the better if you have that kind of relationship. But you know, for the most part, I do suggest, you know, taking a class or hiring someone. You know, Heather and I offer services ourselves and helping people to have better marriages, to have that understanding, have that empathy, have better communication. And I really do think that having that feedback from someone, having someone be able to tell you, you know, that right there isn't so good. This right here is probably the direction that you meant to go in, and this is how you can change it. I think is a really valuable tool to have.
Absolutely. Not to mention the accountability. A book, unfortunately, might have great information, very rarely leads to transformation because we don't actually apply the things that we're learning, or the things that we're learning are too conflicting, they're confusing, they're out of order, right? There's just, relationships are very complicated and they're very, very important. So they need to be handled with care and given that accountability as well. So that's just really good thoughts there on what to do. Now you've identified what you want in your marriage, why it's important to you, what it looks like, what it feels like, how great it's going to be to have that. Then make sure that you're getting the right tools and resources to get it there. So it's not just one of those wishes that you're like, oh, I wish we had a better marriage this year, but oh, it didn't happen again, right? We don't want that to be where we're at the end of 2018. So really making sure that you make it that priority in your life and give yourself that gift in your marriage, that gift. So, okay, so we're live here. That's our little high-level overview. Go ahead and grab this marriage goal sheet. It goes through communication. It goes through intimacy, trust, fun. I don't even know, all those different ones. And really helps to get you a little bit deeper into each one. And I think it's going to be a great resource to help get you going in your marriage this year. So go ahead and grab that. Now, if you have a question for us on something specifically you'd like to work on in your marriage this year, go ahead and leave us a quick comment. We have a few more minutes that we can help out with that. We love to answer your questions live here. I see a couple of you watching. Hi, Jessica, and everyone else. So we did have a question here that came in from William Wallace, if he's watching. And this is a little bit long, but I'll just sum it up a little quick. He says, I don't know how much longer I can hold on before leaving. Yes, I'm Christian, but I'm also lonely, extremely lonely. I don't talk to anyone at times for days, and I'm always alone. I yearn for company and conversation. I yearn to just cuddle and be able to talk at night, or to do those special things like go to the market, watch a movie together. I miss the togetherness of my marriage. It's been 32 months, and well, I'm human. So he said, I'm not the strongest person in the world. He just doesn't know if he has it in him anymore to keep going, and he just wants to be happy. So this is an interesting one. I appreciate you being here, William, and I understand. I can hear the pain that you're going through. And again, this is one of those marriages that's on the other end of the spectrum a little bit, just hanging on there. We don't know the specifics. I personally am not familiar with the specifics of your relationship. 32 months of marriage or 32 months of separation? If you're watching, if you can leave a comment, we can help you out a little bit better that way.
The way I was interpreting it is, I'm hearing a little bit of feedback there, but the way I was interpreting that is the problems have been going on for 32 months. He's been feeling lonely for 32 months. And, you know, honestly, it's a long time to feel lonely within a marriage. And I guess the follow-up question, so to speak, is, okay, what does he do? What does William do about the situation to have a happy relationship? He feels conflicted. He's Christian and feels like, okay, hey, there's this idea that marriage is of God. You don't divorce. So, but he's unhappy. The first step here, the first question that I would have is, okay, what level of communication does he have with his wife, and is she willing to talk about these issues? Right there is where I would start with things. It's just the easiest solution to start off with is actually having a conversation about how he feels, and in such a way that's not blaming, it's not complaining, it's just sharing how he feels with his wife. From there, if that doesn't go well, then they need some sort of outside help. And I would then suggest that he check in with his wife to see if she would be willing to at least go see a counselor, so that a counselor could help process those sort of emotions, help get them out, and help them be shared in a safe setting. Heather and I offer services like that. If that's needed, we can certainly help mediate more difficult conversations like that. If that is not working, then if William still wants to work on the marriage, then there are steps that he could take on his own to start to shift things. Now, getting into that that would be a lengthier process. That would be a more difficult process to fix a marriage on his own, but certainly possible. It would take quite a bit of questions and seeing where the needs are and what needs to be adjusted, but primarily probably start with looking at, okay, why is the wife, not wanting to talk about things, unwilling to have these sort of discussions, not able to work on this? What is William doing to contribute to these problems? Because there's likely things that are going on his side that he might be unaware of. And I'm sorry if this all sounds fairly vague, but I mean, this is fixing a relationship that's been going poorly for 32 months is a complicated issue, and there would be more information needed. So just to reiterate, start with attempting a conversation. If that doesn't work, try to get into therapy. If that doesn't work, therapy or a relationship coach. If that doesn't work, then take steps to fix it on your own. It's not going to do to wait around and hope that things get better, because that's not been working. And, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So William, what I hear, the cry here, is that you've been in a lot of pain, and this has not been a happy situation for you. The loneliness that you talk about, that you just want to be happy, you want some relief, and you should. You deserve that. We all deserve to have that happiness, to have that connection, to have that relief. And so follow that call. Don't ignore it. Don't allow yourself to sit in a situation, in a marriage, in a relationship like this, that is causing you so much pain and loneliness. Take action. Do something about it, right? So many of us, I think, take our time getting ready to get ready. And that was one thing I wanted to share today, was that so many of us, we want to make a change. And so we go and we think about, okay, how do I make the change? I need to read this book about making a change. I got to make sure I've got the right method to make a change. I've got to analyze all these different situations. I've got to look at all these different options. Mm-hmm. And think that we're making progress to change, but we're not actually changing anything, right? So I'm not saying like rush right into something, but there is a power that comes by taking a step. Instead of waiting, getting ready to get ready, just do it, right? Just take a step that feels like it's a move in the right direction. And if you do that every single day, even if it's just one tiny step that feels like it's pulling you in the right direction, at the end of the year, that's 365 steps in the right direction. That's 365 wins. Okay. You can't tell me that your life wouldn't be better at the end of a year with 365 wins. Right? So be brave. This is for us, for all of us. Don't get stuck in analysis paralysis or anything like that, but be willing to take a step forward, whatever that looks like or feels like best to you. So hi, Diane. Hi, Jessica. Hi, Matt. Good to see you all. We have one question here from Jessica, and I think that will have to be about it. Are you good, Mark, to do one more?
Yeah, let's take it.
Jessica said, I was wondering how self-care can work in a marriage. Okay, so I was wondering how self-care can work in a marriage. So if you have any other details you want to offer, what you're wanting to look like, go ahead and leave that. But yeah, let's talk about that. That's a really good question.
We can take that as is even. I imagine part of that is coming from, a lot of times we're suggesting, okay, this is how you take care of your spouse. This is what you can do to them to help nurture the relationship. And then where are you left with, taking care of yourself? I read a really good book, and actually I might have it here. How One of You Can Bring the Two of You Together. So it was a book about fixing a marriage on your own. And I liked one of the images that it gave at one point, and it was talking about repairing the marriage on your own. It gave the suggestion of, it gave this idea of scales, like a balancing scales, that oftentimes we look at a relationship that says, okay, I have my side of the scale and my spouse has their side of the scale. And it says, really, what you should be doing, for a really healthy relationship is you should look at it almost as if you have both sides of the scales. You should be taking care of yourself and you should be taking care of your spouse. And that might sound exhausting, but you end up being a little bit more happy if instead of waiting around for someone else to make you happy, if you're taking the time to make yourself happy. And what this means is being a little bit more assertive, saying, you know what, I need to take that time to go to the gym, or I need to take that time to go do yoga, or to just veg out on occasion. Jessica goes on and says, I guess I feel I've been trying to fix the marriage myself. I haven't been taking care of me. And so absolutely, when you're not taking care of yourself, when your own needs are not getting met, your approach to the marriage is not going to be 100%, 100% what it could be. You're going to feel more crabby. You're going to feel more resentful. You're going to feel a little bit more drained because your needs are not met. And when you approach a struggling relationship like that, when you are not at your best, your chances of success are going to start going down. So when we're talking about self-care, absolutely take care of your spouse, but take the time for yourself. Heather and I, we usually recommend to people that they have, daily rituals of self-care, whether that's, meditation, exercise, journaling, things to just process all the stress, all the anxiety, all the yuck that goes throughout that you experience throughout the day, because you absolutely need that if you want the best marriage that you can and the best chance at fixing things if your marriage is struggling.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to throw in here, it's very crucial when your marriage is struggling. It is equally as crucial when your marriage is thriving and when your marriage is strong, because that is a key ingredient in keeping a marriage strong. Doing the mindset work that I've done, I personally believe that everything starts from your own internal core and proliferates from there. So you need to have that strong center within yourself so that you can be nurtured and taken care of, and then can give the best of yourself to others. Mark and I both have big families. We have many children. We have this business that we run. We love serving. We're very passionate about helping you see your marriages thrive. And we have, our relationships and everything. And if I didn't take care of myself, if I didn't keep myself in a really good, this isn't just fluff, it's an internal place of strength and an internal place of peace and clarity. Do you think I could show up to do all the things, for my children and my husband and my clients and all of you? No, right? So you've got to start, again, that foundation we're talking about in a marriage, you got to start the foundation also as a key part of taking care of yourself and giving yourself that self-care. So it's very, very important. I'm glad you brought that up. Any other final thoughts on this, Mark?
No, I think we covered it well. I mean, without more information, we could certainly go deeper, but now's not the time.
Awesome. Well, just to sum up again, I really hope that you take these things. I know we talked about a lot of high level things today, but really assess where you are at individually and then get that goal sheet, take it deeper for yourself. It'll be the best thing that you have done for your marriage or yourself probably in a really long time. So I hope that that gives you some clarity and some momentum to move forward. Now, if you're really wanting to take things to the next level, Mark and I have a Marriage Fresh Start course that we have, and I'll post a link to that if you want. It's literally less than $40, and it will give your marriage a beautiful fresh start. You can really hit the new year strong and happy and thriving and take it to the next level. It's some incredible skills and some mindset work that you can do there to get your marriage to a really good and positive place. So we appreciate you all. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Mark, and we will see you next time.